Okay, here we are. Change the view of the center view. And people remote, can you shake your head if you see the slides now? Awesome. All right. We're going to keep on admitting people coming in, but in the meantime, we are going to get started because it's already 12:36. Thank you so much for joining us. We are in our, what is it, eighth presentation for this year. I have to remember to talk to the owl over there. Right. I keep on the screen on this side and, that's it. Today we are going to be talking about donor engagement. I hope everybody had a nice summer. We did take a little break during August. But September is here already, and well, it's you can't avoid time going by. All right, so this is hi. How are you? Welcome. So what we have done so far this year, as many of you know, has been a lot with managing people and kind of managing conflict and so on. But this time, well, in June, we did a little bit of about interagency collaboration and marketing strategies for outreach. And now in the next two sessions, we are going to move along to a lot of donor and engagement and grant making. So today we're going to be addressing a lot of how to engage donors and, tell a good story so that you can really get the support that you need. And so we will be talking a lot about that. A few things that I usually request from the audience is let's try to be present. And remember that we all have an agency to change things around us over time, even if sometimes things seem a little bit difficult or out of hand. We always have the choice to change things for us and ourselves. The other piece is that I ask for a lot of support and participation in these trainings because we all learn from each other. And today we don't have a very big crowd, so we'll get to participate a lot more. And also this should be a safe space for everyone to share. What we want is that people feel that they can talk about the things that are going really well for them, the things that may be needing improvement. And when we share, we have the possibility to learn more. And in order to share in a safe space, instead of using the word "but," we use yes and. So we acknowledge the other person, and then we talk about our own viewpoint about things. So people that are remote, I'm like managing people coming into the room, the PowerPoint, talking to the crowd here. So if you have anything to say, please just unmute yourselves and share with me. I will not be able to see chats or if you're raising your hand because I'm managing too many things at the same time. In the middle of the presentation, we will have a break of 5 minutes. For the people that are here, the restroom is back there and there is some water and coffee if you like. And after the presentation, we will be sending the PowerPoint and the supporting documents. And of course, we always send you our survey to check on how you felt the presentation went so that we can continue on improving. All right. So what we have for the agenda today is we're going to talk a little bit about what are today's donor fundraising challenges. And then we're going to talk about a philosophy called donor-centered fundraising. Many of you may be familiar with it, but it's always good to review because there are some things that we may forget over time to do with our donors. Then we're going to talk about what are the donating habits of people based on generation and what are also the donating habits based on gender. I have a very, it's not as wide as considering all kinds of genders or identifications. I have men and women, but that's all I was able to kind of like gather. Maybe we can find a few things between us that you know of as well. Then we're going to be talking about telling a comparative story and making the ask. And when we tell a compelling story, how do we talk about data, and how do we talk about stories, and how we communicate both, and in which times? And last but not least, we're going to be talking about when things change, how do you communicate with your donors, and softwares that can be helpful to manage your donors database. I have a number of well-rated softwares information to share with you, so hopefully you'll find that a bit useful for you as well. So, but let me just start with a question before we even get started, and I want to know from the people in the audience, if we can start with those in the virtual room, and you can share with us a little bit of what is it that is most difficult for you right now in managing donors, communicating with donors, asking for giving and donations. So anyone that is right now in the virtual area will just unmute themselves and share a little bit. What are the struggles or the things that you feel that you need to know more about donors?
I'd be glad to speak up. I'm the development director at Pacific House, and the biggest challenge is there are so many competing organizations that are all worthy. And you have to figure out how you can, I hate to say it like this, sell yours, that it's important and that you have a cause and that it's vital.
Competition is a big one, Michelle. Thank you so much for sharing. I think Caroline was unmuting herself as well.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Nod. I'm the Vice President of Fundraising and Marketing here at Stepping Stones Museum for Children. I'm really glad to be here with all of you and share. I agree with what was just said. I think as a children's museum, first and foremost, it's sometimes difficult to separate what we do here from just being a destination for fun, like a bouncy house or something like that. And obviously, I think our members are very I think they're aware that about what we're trying to do in terms of playful learning and obvious fun hidden learning. We talk about that a lot, that this is a place where children are rewarded for just being curious, and that can be very transformational, but it isn't as dire of a need. We can't pinpoint, I guess, the outcomes that we try to work toward here to one specific population or one specific need. It's more children 10 and under, every child in whatever category needs opportunities to learn in a very inclusive, non-judgmental, rewarding way. And I think in the sea of all the worthy causes, it is difficult to sort of find the right niche, of donor that we're kind of a happy giving opportunity versus the other.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And one of the things that came across to me, Caroline, when you were talking, is that you do so many wonderful things that is kind of like hard to pick that specific thing that you're going to talk about that is going to point to that donor, right? That they care about. Because maybe some people may care about child development, other people may care about family and activities for the family in the community. There are so many ways you can talk about what you do that it makes it hard to tell a story that will touch everybody, right?
Absolutely.
Anybody else that is remote that I would like to share? What are they facing with donors and challenges? How about here? Anybody wants to share what they believe could be a challenge nowadays with donors? All right.
Well,
so I have
I'll share
yes.
real quickly.
Go ahead, Sue.
So I've been running this agency for 30 years, and the problem is that, first of all, HIV, AIDS, hepatitis C, which is half of what we do, is no longer considered, at least amongst a lot of people, they aren't that educated about it anymore. The young people are very uneducated about it, and yet we still have 35,000 new cases a year. It is manageable, it is treatable, but it's very hard to raise money for that. We also do a lot of housing for the homeless, for people with HIV, and otherwise we do harm reduction, substance abuse, all of those things. It's almost like, we're a small agency and we don't have a really big board, and we don't have a really strong board in terms of financial assistance. So those things together make it very challenging. We've found that the best thing we can do right now is we've been doing this event called Gay Bingo for like 30 years, and it's very popular. So we usually sell that out, but you don't make that much money on bingo. And you need money to make money. So that's kind of the deal. And if you don't have money to hire a full-time fundraising person or development person, you're kind of running around in circles. So it is tough at times.
It can be very, very tough. And thank you for sharing that, because sometimes when we are in the process of growth from a small organization trying to become the bigger one, right? We don't have enough money to hire the people that will bring our money in. I call them the money makers. And at the same time, we need the resources. So and with the small boards, that can be really a challenge as well, because they try to be, as frugal as possible with their funds. Yet there has to be this understanding. If you don't have a person that is dedicated to raising funds, it is very difficult. You're going to continue going on circles all the time. Thank you so much, Stuart, for sharing that with us. I also have a list of other things that are related to what you were saying, and that is making it challenging nowadays to engage donors more. One of them is that the donor base may be aging. So we are used to different kinds of cultures regarding donations, and during the time where charities came about and started growing and became something that people wanted to do, most of the donors were people wealthy that really, wanted to either put their money towards a better cause instead of paying for taxes, or, really were connected to the cause. But that donor base is aging with time, and our new generations are giving very differently, which we're going to talk about, because there's a lot of exciting opportunities regarding the new generation and how they give. Also, there is a problem with the generational wealth transfer, right? Whether people are leaving wills that are leaving money behind for nonprofit organizations, or are transferring their future generations are making as much wealth as they did. That could be an issue as well. Expectations of donors, and this is really key also, as the generations change over time, and that may be something that you have to constantly be renewing your knowledge for when you are working with donors. The bad news here is that engaging donors is not a simple one kind of a strategy for everybody, so it requires a lot of time. And as you think about these factors, like the more you're going to feel that there's like a lot that needs to be invested when it comes to managing donor expectations and looking at your donors and seeing how they're going to give in the future. There is also donor fatigue. And this goes to the fact that nonprofits are replacing a lot of social services throughout the country. Fairfield County specifically has an enormous amount of nonprofits. And we are all working towards making great things for people. The work we have is still, that we are able to do, is still not enough to supply for the demand, yet nonprofit organizations keep on growing, and then, they become competitors from one another. So there is a lot of donor fatigue nowadays, because we've been asking and the asks continue growing. The next thing is increased competition, which Michelle mentioned, and it's just directly related to this donor fatigue. One thing that I want to point out, as international issues continue happening, donors may be geared to put their money into different things that they believe in. So we have seen that a lot in the community lately, because people are worried also about giving back to their home countries that may be going through situations that are difficult right now. Economic uncertainty can be a big one. We think about that a lot when there is changes in, presidents and governments, and also whether the stock market is doing well or not. People tend to, if there's uncertainty, they tend to hold back a little bit on their donations as well. Other thing may be misalignment of values or mission drift. So as organizations kind of like evolve and the needs change, what happens is that we change with the times as well. And our missions may change, and we may not be very clear about what is it that we began doing something, and now we're doing something that is a little bit different. Are our donors connecting with the different thing that we do? Are we talking about it in a way that it makes sense? And are we aligning donors that are more aligned with that, with the newer idea of what we want to do? I have to say also that people have different beliefs about how, successful your programs are, and how what makes them successful. And so that can be challenging as well when it comes to continuing engaging donors. If you have a donor base that is very fixated on how things should be done and what impact makes and what does it look like. Another one, donors tend to have privacy concerns. Sometimes the bigger donors are big on this, and they may want to decline public acknowledgement, which is okay. But then at the same time, if you have a big donor that is giving you, it also helps your organization if you are able to tell that this donor is giving you, because it allows other people to trust what you're doing because they know this donor is giving. So there's a lot of donors out there who are very hard to get, and once you get them, they don't want any acknowledgement, which makes it difficult because you want to, talk about it as well. Digital distraction and short attention spans are another one that is like super big, and also complexity of donating. So you have two different generations: the ones that are constantly in the digital world and they get distracted by a lot of competing kind of interest. And then you have the donor who is not so much in kind of environment. And our newer ways of giving may be very, very complex for them. So those are issues that may come up as you are thinking about donors and as the times are changing. One of the things that I've been seeing and hearing other speakers to talk about a lot lately is because our technology is changing so rapidly, it's making it really hard to catch up for everybody. Or I guess for us, the older generation, not so much for the younger generation, but as you think of things evolving, we need to evolve with the times, and our donors need to evolve with the times, and those who can need kind of a special kind of different treatment because we have to make things easier for them as well. Any questions or comments on this kind of like challenges? It's the only 2 slides that we're going to talk about challenges. Now we're going to talk about what we can do. Anything? All right, let's continue that. So what I want to concentrate on, and I'm going to try to move this to the other side so my people here in the room can see you guys. We're going to talk about something called donor-centered fundraising. Donor-centered fundraising is a concept that has been around for a while, and it's not that we forget. It's who has the time to focus so much on the donors, but you need to do that, right? But what it does is to focus on building strong relationships with the donors. What it means is that you shift the focus from what your organization needs to what is the interest of the donor. So you have to work very hard at finding what is the connection of that donor with you. What is it that is going to be a compelling story for that donor versus what is it that we need as an organization? So one of the things that I'm hoping we switch gears from in this workshop is instead of thinking so much about the need, start thinking about what is their investment. Because like in any marketing, and I will say development is purely about marketing, you want to concentrate on your audience and what is it that they are looking for when they are giving you. So donor-centered fundraising is all about that. It's about focusing on building strong relationships. It's about prioritizing the interests of the donor, their motivations and their experiences. How do you connect your cause with the motivation that that donor has? Of course, if you have thousands of donors, you are not going to know the story of every donor, and that's where the software that you might be able to use can help, so that you have good insight regarding what is it that is tickling different people that are giving you. Is it families coming together and doing nice activities with their kids, or is it child development, or is it a bigger service to the community in which people are, coming together to raise our next generation in a way that, helps their intellect and their creativity. And so what you do is, when you do donor-centered fundraising, is that you focus on the donor's values and their preferences. And when you do that, it does encourage long-term engagement and support. So it takes a lot of time investment, but the reward is that people will be more engaged than the occasional giving. They will be more engaged with your cause because they understand you better and they want to do more. And along, they will bring those people that they know have the same kind of commitments to the community, and hopefully be your best people to help you raise money as well. So the whole concept of donor-centered fundraising comes from Penelope Burke. And what Penelope says is that it is a system for soliciting and a stewardship that focuses on donors to achieve their mission by providing an experience that is consistent and satisfying to them. How does this look like? Well, it looks like, first, you ensure that donor trust through responsive donation management and management of transparency and operations. So that's one of the key parts. When you think about the stewardship of the donors, you are thinking about, how do I make this donor trust that what I'm doing is going to bring results, and at the same time, their money will be well used towards the cause that we are talking about. So it's kind of like you tell the story backwards of what we have done, and then you tell the story to the future, and this is what we are going to do. And therefore, consistency is super important when you are trying to get that stewardship from those donors. The next one is having meaningful communication. What does that mean? It's that you understand and you know the donor expectations, and that you invest time in cultivating these relationships that you have. It does take time, but it is worth the investment, because if you establish long-term relationships with the donors, over time, their donations may increase. And like I said before, they may bring along other people that are as inspired as they are for supporting your cause. Another piece that is super important about donors is managing their expectations. And this takes me to the point in which people really have ideas of how the world thing works based on their own experiences. So many times we have a donor that expects that, for example, someone we are helping takes a job training, and then they get a job, a well-paid job, right? And then they kind of like get another certification, and they are able to get a better paid job, and then they are able to support their family and so on. That's easy to think about if you have had a privileged life in which things have worked that way, right? I went to college, I got my job, then I got I was able to do better. I got a raise. I got promoted in my job. I bought a house. I bought a car. If you have that reality, that's easy for you to believe. We are serving people in the real world know that it doesn't work out that way, right? Because the people that we are working with have had many disadvantages that other people like donors haven't experienced in their life. So it takes a lot of managing their expectations and educating donors on what does real other people's lives look like, right? What is it that they challenge? And we're going to talk about that when we talk about storytelling. But for you, you have to have a lot of clarity on that. Many times we think that we have to do what donor wants us to do, and what I really want to, and I've talked about this in other the other presentations I've done, is to turn that story around. And we learning how to tell our donors what is it, what we need, and why, and making a case on educating them on why things work in a certain way within the work that we are doing, right? So we have, I'm going to say Maria, I always use Maria, I don't know why, but Maria, who needed to get a job, but then she got pregnant. So now her challenges were staying at home with the baby or paying a babysitter, right? Explaining those stories in a way in which the donor can understand, because their reality may be very, very different to the one that the people we are helping. So, and also sometimes donors may have expectations about things like, for example, okay, I'll give you, I'll give you a donation, and I also would like to kind of paint the walls in your place, when you really don't need anybody to come in and paint the walls. What you need is, for example, turkeys for the turkey drive, or something different, right? Or they may want to come and interact with the people that you're serving, when you know that there is like a very fine balance on exposing the people you're serving to the people that are out there. So you have to be super clear about how to manage their expectations and what they can really get for their donation. Because people, we are people, and we are always looking to exchange something. And whether it is a good story or feeling good about myself, when I donate, I am looking to like get something back. That may be great stuff, but it does exist. The other piece is understanding the donor's motivation, and this is a big one that I want to give you a few examples about. Donor motivation may look very different to what you imagine might be. Every person, independently of their wealth or their status or their the things that they have had, privileges they have had in their life, they have a story. And so by establishing these one-on-one connections with people, you will learn what is it that motivates them to give, right? For example, I work a lot with immigrants. So one of the things we always talk about is like, in the US, everybody talks about, oh, we are all immigrants. We all came from immigrant communities and so on. And so that's easy to say. People tend to think that way, and that the US is an immigrant community, but it's not until you connect that person closer with that idea of we are all immigrants that people really become connected. So, for example, where are your grandparents from? When they came here, did they get the help that they needed? Where in your generations did you have an immigrant in your family? What were the struggles that they suffered? When you make those connections about their personal story with what you are trying to, the people you are trying to help, you have more chances to kind of connect and get the donation. But you have to go a little bit deeper. Sometimes if you are an event, or you have a special thing that you have going on and you invite donors to, taking the time to hold those conversations, it's very important. What is it that connects you with the cause? For example, in the case of HIV or any STDs or help to the homeless, what is it that connects you personally to that? Did you have an experience like growing up? Did you have friends or family members that you lost to that? Do you care for health in general? It may be a person that may have no connection with that, but they care about the health of other people. And that is important to find out and know what their motivation are. And the only way you're going to get there is by having those conversations and really talk with them. Many times people are very willing to share their own stories and experiences with you. And that's where your job is, like, to make sure that you're taking notes and that you remember what is the connection for that person. Because as you apply more of donor-centered fundraising, you will know that if you're sending an appeal and you're writing an appeal, no, you will know what to say. Let's see, personalized communication. This requires a lot of time. And obviously, when people do not have someone in development or a team of development that has the time to do that, it can become more difficult. But it is recommended that instead of generic appeals, we make appeals for people depending on what is it that we're doing. Let's say if we have a special campaign and we have a group of people that care about our cause in a certain way, send that appeal to those people, but not to everybody. If you are having an event that is focused on certain aspect of your work, make sure you invite those people that demonstrated interest on that. It's basically segmenting your group of givers. But you are not going to know how to segment the group of givers if you don't ask them, or if you don't collect information that is critical for that. So even when people are giving online, right? You have an auction item online, or you have a campaign online in which people are going to give over the internet. Most people just give, but there is no question saying, why are you giving to us? Or how did you become connected with us? And that would be to implement, because if you have, a list of let's say multiple choice where people can pick, then you can segregate them by the reason that they are giving. So yes, segment based on giving history, interests, preferred donations, methods, and so on. If you have a very good and have the funds to have a development team, you may even make analysis of when people give the most, when they give the less, whether they gave a lot for many years and then they decline and then they came back. And you may want to find out, what was going on in your life? Like, we haven't heard from you. We would love to know what you've been up to, right? And do that approach from the personal interest point of view more than the donation point of view. Of course, expressing gratitude is number one, right? Making sure that you send timely thank you notes and personalized notes if it is possible. And also, when you are thanking, tell people how their gift impacted the life of somebody, and avoid making requests or even name future donations that they may want to get. And then people are getting notes all the time, and they can smell when you're just kind of planting the seed for a future donation versus thank you so much, this is how your donation helped us. And when it comes to that, of course, showing impact is one of the key areas that people really care about. It's basically learning about what is my return on investment. How did my money help somebody? Were we able together, you with your work and me with my money, able to make people's life better, or animals' life better, or whatever it is that you are raising, the arts better, right? Whatever you are fundraising for. So showing impact is very important. We'll be talking about data and stories in this presentation. When you build relationships with your donor, it's important that these relationships are not transactional but personal. It's not so much about what they give, it's about what connects them to you. And if you have the opportunity of engaging the donor in other activities that are outside of the giving piece, take that opportunity, right? Many times donors want to be volunteers too. They want to kind of lead the experience of what it is to help or support other people. Many times you have donors that come to you first as a volunteer and they become donors over time. So it is all about building those relationships with the people that are giving you in one or another way, whether it's their time or their gifts. And if you have the opportunity to listen to their feedback and gather information on what is it that moves them, and understand what is it that they care about, that is even better. So people have different donating habits. And does anybody have any questions or comments? Yes, please.
So, I've been involved in nonprofits where we send out mass mailings, mandatory mailings.
Mhm.
And then they'll have the board write little notes on the letters. Did that make a difference? It does, like even a 2-line note saying,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yes, it definitely makes a difference. Continue doing it, even if it's 2 lines. I have to say that I get a lot of appeals in the mail. When I get a personal note, I'm more prone to give, because it's just like I'm not just another person in the list. It's like you're thinking about me. And so if they have a special connection with the board members, or even if they just can write a note for somebody that they don't know, it's always good to do. It takes time,
yeah.
but it pays off. Definitely pays off. Yes. Any other questions or comments regarding that?
So I will make a comment, having done this for a substantial amount of time, both as a volunteer and now as a paid professional, every time you reach out and you actually talk to someone, you build that relationship and you have a much higher rate of return. And you want those people also to be connectors and tell their friends what a great time they had at Pacific House and how they help people who are homeless. And then they go and they tell their friends, and they come and they want to learn more.
Yes, thank you, Michelle, for that. You are so right about that. Sometimes making a phone call may take a long time, but you may be surprised of how happy people are when they hear back from you. Like, I'm not a great person to call on the phone, and I'm praying that the answering machine answers. But when the person answers, or when you are able to leave a message for that person, it makes such a big difference. People remember, people mention it to other people that they may know, and they have the opportunity to ask you questions and so on. Another thing that donors want to know is some people are very connected to wanting to talk to your team. What is it that your team is doing? How are they doing their work? What are they finding challenging? What do they need help with? So let's say, for example, you have restricted funding. Somebody gave you for something specific. You can also have one of your team members to call them and give them a quick call and say, thank you for making the difference. This is going to help us help this person with this, and that, right? So if you are running different programs and you have different people that specialize on that program, they're the best people to talk to that donor, because they will be able to answer questions that the donor may have, but you as a development person may not have all the insights on. So, and that connection may even bring, more funds. If the donor says, oh, how can we help you? Well, we actually need this, because the person is working on the ground knows. So it is all about relationships. And I think that one of the most difficult things for board members to kind of internalize is that when they are asking for support, it's not like they're asking for money. Asking for money is very difficult. It's again, how is it that you are helping that person to help their community? How is it that they will be investing in something they care about? And I'm here to help you to do that. So on that note, unless anybody has any other comments, we do have, for different generations, we have different donating habits. And this is good to know because it can help you strategize on when will you be reaching different people depending on what the preferences are. So we are going to start with the people that were born between 1945. They're called the traditionalists, and their values are around loyalty, tradition, trust, and institutions. So one of the things you want to think about is the times that people grew up. What was their reality when they were growing up? Were they, looking for stability in their government? Were there wars when they were growing up? What was it that motivated them? Were they coming from other countries to live here? Did they face challenges in their own lives that they can relate to the challenges that people face today? So how do they give? This kind of donor gives regularly and usually give more to a smaller number of organizations that they usually trust. Remember, these people were learn how to give in the times in which charities, how we used to call them, used to be very small. They were institutions that were started in churches or, by people specifically in their neighborhood that wanted to do something good for other people. And so when they created their giving habits, they really learned how to trust those organizations, and they had a special connection with them. They do prefer direct mail or phone calls to give. And when they give, they tend to write checks, right? I still write checks. I don't use online. I wasn't born in 1945. Given is, they do give a lot through churches and events, and they are more likely to give with estate planning, meaning that they leave money behind for the organizations that they care about. The next group is the famous baby boomers. I would say that this group is probably the ones that has maintained mostly the nonprofit work in the last, I say 20 years, people that have been giving a lot. And their behavior is that they care about making lasting impact and showing and organizations that show stability, security, and that make lasting impact in the community. They tend to make up for the largest group of donors, and they contribute more money in terms of dollar amounts to our communities. They are the biggest givers. A lot of baby boomers have a lot of resources, and therefore that shows in their giving as well. They are also motivated by loyalty to causes, and they are specifically engaged on health, religion, and education. Why? Because the way they grew up, they grew up believing that this could be kind of like the basic needs that people needed to cover, and that's how people could get ahead. It's all connected to their personal beliefs, again. And even if their personal beliefs may be not so in touch with today's reality, that's what you want to kind of like touch into, and then help them learn a little more as you go. They prefer direct mail, email, and phone calls. That's more than social media. They tend to be more in that aspect of the giving. And they prefer to give checks, and they are using online platforms a lot more now. And they are more likely to give more money to a smaller number of organizations, and also give through planning, through ways. Right, so the next generation we're going to talk about is Generation X, which is most of us here, I think. We born between 1965 and 1980. This group cares about independence. They cares about pragmatism. Like, these are the perfect donors for causes that do a lot of different things, right? Like stepping stones. You will find more of your donors in this case because they care about like the whole picture versus the little, like this one thing that the charity is doing. But they are also skeptic about institutions because they have seen a lot of institutions fail throughout, their lifetime, or institutions that have been mismanaged. So remember, this is the people that grew up watching on TV, big groups asking for donations on TV, and then people getting yachts and mansions based on those donations that they got. So I'm not gonna name names, but you know who they are. Also, the giving behavior causes on causes that they personally care about and support. So it's more for them. It's more than just, I care about the poor people out there. It's more like, what can I relate to that I want to help. And Also, they care about the organization's having some sort of financial accountability, right? Now, to say that some people prefer to donate to causes that need a lot of, and other people prefer to donate to causes that have a lot of help already because they are financially stable. So that all depends on personal beliefs. I have to say that this generation also focus a lot on giving through foundations because they are trust those foundations that are going to be able to manage the money and give it to the needs of the community. So they tend also to be very involved, and they will want to be in board of directors or be part of the causes in a different manner than just giving. And they also want to support causes that align with their personal values, like we just said. They prefer email, website, and social media. They kind of like continuously, it's the generation that is forced to change with the times as of now. So that's how they give. And they give, they're comfortable with giving online donations, using crowdfunding, and also giving recurring gifts. Like when you sign up and you give monthly based on the request, right? I give $10 monthly instead of giving just one large donation. Like I said before, they are very interested in volunteering, in being part of a hands-on involvement in the cause that they are helping to go along with the financial donations. So they may want to be in your board, they may want to volunteer, they may want to help in the sub kitchen, they may want to help building houses, they may want to help doing something other than giving donations as well. The next generation is the millennials, and here's where we start seeing like big more changes on the way people give. Millennials were born between 1981 and 1996, and they care very much about things like social justice, community, and making a direct impact. The generation of the millennials are the ones that start like really caring about causes that are ecologically based, right? And we're thinking about what kind of impact can we make in the planet versus what kind of impact can I make in my local community. It's not one or the other, but they are more prone to think about giving in a more global way and really changing life for people in general through many different ways. Here's when you can start thinking and seeing the opportunities that may come up for the newer donors, which are going to increase over time as the years progress, right? In 10 years, they probably will be making the largest pool of donors or maybe equate to Gen X. And so you want to make sure that when you're talking about your story and you are connecting with them, you are doing it in a way that appeals to them, to the things that they care about. And how do you know that? By asking them, right? It's the only way to find out. So they are more likely to support general causes as opposed to specific institutions. They are driven also by peer influence. So and they want to see, actual results. So for example, companies, they're big into engaging like that. Indeed, companies that are big and have a lot of millennials working in the workplace will want to come out as an organization and either volunteer or donate or create a project together with this group of people. So they're very influenced by their peers, whether it's in activities or donations. They are also prefer social media, text, and digital platforms, which takes us back to the previous bullet point, which talks about they prefer to give a smaller donation to many different kind of causes than one large donation at a time. So right now, they may evolve over time. Your millennial is not the person that is going to go to your fundraising event and give a large amount of money. They're going to be the people that are going to engage with you online, and they will give you $50. But then their friends will give you $50, and then their friends will give you $50. And that counts a lot. We can kind of forget about those donations because they may make the bulk of our part. I recently got a flyer from Yukon Foundation, and so they talk about the impact in the flyer, and then on the bottom said they mention how much money they have raised with donations of $50 or less. And so sometimes you may get that and say, oh, I don't have to I already gave to all these places. But when you see a message like that, I say, okay, send $20 because it does make an impact. They are telling us how it's making the impact. And so those are the kind of things that we want to think about when you are working with donors that are really giving more across the board in things that they care about, but they're giving a smaller number of donations. The other piece is that, of course, they rely heavily on online and mobile giving, and they are likely to participate in peer-to-peer fundraising. So, for example, a run is an excellent way for them to give because they are motivated by, doing this activity with their friends. And on top of that, they can create a team. And when they create a team, everybody has to register and they give a little something and then they give a little donation. Like they are more of like a team kind of. Let's not forget that this generation was the first generation that started dating on groups instead of going on dates on their own, right? They will go with like, oh, we're going on a date. And it was like 3 couples. So they are used to doing like a lot of things together as a group. And that's where you want to kind of get to them in that manner. So as you see, as we are talking about the different generations, you can start already picturing, right? How do you want to divide your different segments and how you want your campaigns to be for every single different kind of people that are giving. And then we have Gen Z, which, they're young, but they still can give, especially because they are entering the workforce at this time, big time. Also they care a lot about social causes. So Gen Zs also care about activism, inclusivity, and environmental sustainability. Okay, so our Gen Z has grown up during times of COVID, right? And also our social unrest on, equality for everybody. So they are people that really, really care about that, and they care about their environment because they see their planet is dying, and they're the ones that are going to have to live in it. So here's where you kind of like can pinpoint to their giving desires. Also, they are more likely to support causes that are for climate change, social justice, and equality. They have grown seeing these little changes that we have seen in the last, I don't know, 5-6 years. They're action oriented and they like to volunteer. They like to do advocacy along with the financial contributions. In our area, there may be many young people who have grown up helping out, especially because in order to get to college, you have to show some involvement in the community. They may have internalized more what it means to help other people. They have seen the results of what it means to be part of, doing work that is helping other people. So their experience may be very different to a baby boomer, for example. They prefer obviously social media like Instagram and TikTok. Facebook is not social media for them. Just a little reminder. They like video content and apps. Okay, so the video content is the big one. This generation Z is a generation that learns how to do things themselves by watching videos in YouTube. So if you want to kind of get to them, this is a great strategy. You want to create video content. You want to, and this, we talked about this, that was my little tip when we did outreach in the community. You want to be connected with an influencer. If you are able to connect with an influencer, that influencer becomes very familiar with your cause and wants to help you. They'll be the ones helping out, putting those videos out there that will influence their peers. So it's very different than writing a letter, right? I mean, you write a letter to Gen Z, they're not going to read it. You write an email, they're not going to read it. They may read a text, maybe, but it's all about interactive videos and that kind of the way they consume information is very different to the way we consume information. So they prefer to give a little tip through mobile apps, text, and crowdfunding, and they also engage a lot in social media. So, for example, if they donate, they will put, if they're super engaged with you, they will put videos themselves to get other people to donate to you as well. So, like one thing that doesn't change at all is the fact that you have to have some sort of personal connection with your donor in different ways, but you have to have it in order to be successful with reaching out to your donors. So I would like to give you a 5-minute break, because it's 1:30, an hour flew by. And in 5 minutes at 1:35, we'll get together again, and we will move on to other habits and practical tips on how to, kind of talk about donation. All right.
Open this.
Yeah, time goes by really fast when you're having fun.
Are you okay with me eating?
Of course, yes, absolutely. All right, so we will get back for presentation. So I don't want to time. I'm a special. We have a specialty of running out of time. We have too much to say. So can you hear me remote? Just shake your head if you do. Let me see. Yes? Okay, thank you, Michelle. Okay, so just to summarize the donating habits of different people. If you want to kind of like remember a few key things, although you're gonna get this PowerPoint, so you have it handy. The older generation give larger gifts less frequently and are more inclined to use traditional methods of giving. Like, for example, mailing checks that you and they also care very much about causes, a smaller number of causes, and the impact that they make. The newer and younger generations tend to make a smaller but more often donations, more recurring donations, and they usually use digital platforms or social media to give. And they are influenced by social causes that are more global and larger. They don't care so much about, they do care, but they care more about what is happening in the planet than what is happening at the church in my corner and how might have been. They're more inclined to think global. And in between, you find Generation X, which is usually now blending both kinds of giving and giving approaches as well. So that's a good way to remember. Now, I have my binary, I call it binary because it's only men and women, that's all I have. Receiving donations, and it's important also to understand these two different crowds because they also give differently, and you will know when to tap on each one of them depending on some of the things that you're going to learn now. First, women tend to be more driven by empathy, emotional connection, and personal experiences. The other thing about women is that they tend to give more frequently, but in smaller amounts. They tend to be very economical about the way they give. They want to stretch their dollars more, right? Like we like to buy on sale. that's the kind of concept. They like to support multiple causes, and they are very consistent with those causes to give over time. So if you want a consistent donor, you may want to engage the women to give you, more consistently. They also tend to donate more to organizations that are focused on social services, that are focused on community development, education, and health. Those are the things that they think about because they are, we women are more geared to family thinking, right? Then all these other areas are related to that specifically. Like, how is the social services organization organization helping my community? How is education, like stepping stones, helping the children in the community? Those are the things that are more geared to. I'm not saying all women are like that. I'm saying that in general, this is what they care about. And so when you're thinking about who you're gonna tap for your giving, you may want to think about these specific characteristics. Or if you want to connect to a specific initiative, to a specific sort of giver, right? So you have like 3 events in a year, and one is specifically for something that is related to social services. You may want to tap more your women givers than your men givers. They also tend to involve themselves in the decision making when it's family giving. Like if the family is going to give as a whole, they want to get involved in the donation, have the talk with their families and say, this is how, I think about giving. Also, they are less motivated by public recognition. When women give, they tend to be like, okay, yes, let's move on. We did the good work, and not necessarily so impressed by being named out there or having their name specifically recognized publicly. The other thing is that they often engage in planned giving, and they are more likely to give monthly or annually, and are more prone to have long-term kind of relationships with the organizations that they are helping. Connecting more with them, learning more about them, know more about what is it that they're giving. So if you think about women, think about smaller donation, more consistently over time, and what are the things that they care about. Now, when we talk about men, let me move this out of the way. Men are more likely to be motivated by strategy, status, and the desire to make donations to the larger scale. Yes?
I ask you. Peter, for when you did all the breakdown and everything, there was one thing that at least to me and my friends, when you're talking about myself and my friend, was missing. In this country, in my generation, and I belong to the first generation that you listed there because I am 82, military given, my friend, is the biggest.
Oh.
The biggest. People of my age, all of the guys who were, and in as much as I was never a member, because I was in the Marine for 29 days, and then they discovered that I have a diplomatic visa for the United Nations. Therefore, goodbye. They gave me a beautiful ticket in those years in a train, not even in a plane, in a train to come back to New York and go back to the United Nations. Long story short, but those 29 days created a profound sense of respect for them as an organization. And most of those people who has been in the service, they all are very given. I am not telling you that they are giving you millions and millions, but every one of them support. I personally given to 5 different organizations.
Very committed to those kind of organizations.
Okay?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
That is the only thing that I have to say, but it's not a criticism. It's simply
observation.
Yes, and then it is not in there. And I know from my friend that these are people who are deeply committed
to give into this kind of institution. Thank you so much for your addition. So when we talk about strategy and status and the desire to give to the kind of causes that you're mentioning, another big cause that men give a lot to are colleges. Yeah. Because they kind of like focus a lot on economic development and politics, sports, and also professional networks. So you will find men giving individually, but also you will find them giving through their clubs. So if they belong like the Rotary Club, if they belong to, I don't know, the Masons, other kinds of institutions, you will find them engaging more through these social connections that they have. They also like to see that organizations are achieving measured goals for the donations, and they do give fewer donations but in larger amounts. So men are your prime goal and target for example, events. If you are having a fundraising event, you will notice that men give more larger donations than women do in this kind of events. They also are more autonomous in their decision making, meaning that when they decide they're going to give, they don't ask anybody. They just go ahead and make the decision about giving. So they are very spontaneous on the giving, and that's why I say if you have a fundraising events, they're your prime subject. If they feel inspired by what you're saying and they really feel compelled, even in that moment, they're going to make the decision in that moment and give, independently of whether the wife agrees or doesn't agree, or the partner. Sometimes they are driven by the desire of leadership and recognition. So if you think about appealing to them, they may be more people that may want to have a building named after them, or somebody that may want to have a room named after them after a large donation. So these are the things that are more motivating. Also, they are more likely to respond positively about public acknowledgement. And they engage again more in one-time larger donations than in events such as fundraising and so on. So they also are very good at helping with campaigns in crisis. So if something happens that needs kind of immediate help, they need kind of like, there is a tragedy and there needs to be a quick drive to get something done, more men are more likely to give to those causes. Okay, so when we think about making the ask, because I think that that's kind of like what people find more challenging is how do I ask for money? And I mentioned this briefly when we were talking earlier. I think that we tend to think about charities as asking for help. That's kind of like our view. We need help. We need help. We need help. We need to help other people, and therefore we need help as well. But really, a better way to approach it is to show people how their investment in the community is helping, right? You are not necessarily giving us because we are in so much need. What you're doing is investing in our future generations. You're investing in the community. You're investing in ecological things. You're investing in peace. You're investing in things that they care about. You're investing on immigrants. You're investing on people recovering from the difficulties they have faced in life. So I think when you think about that, it can definitely change the way you think about asking for what you need. Because you're turning things around, you're talking about how, and I mentioned this, how am I helping you to feel better about yourself? How am I helping you to feel that your giving is meaningful in the community versus we are needy people, which is kind of what charities have been for years and years and years. Hopefully we will turn that around. I mean, let's not forget that all of our nonprofits in the community are supplying with a lot of support that is being provided by people that are giving individually or by organizations or by companies, right? It's really a lot of social services that are not being paid by, necessarily totally by the government, even though we may receive grants from certain governmental agencies. We are supplying the work, like the needs for the community that no other entity is supplying in other realms. So it is very important for people to understand is if you want your community to be better, this is the way you invest in it. And then
I'm sorry, my days of development from a long time ago. Kind of along the lines, I always thought a hard or a fine line or a hard thing to balance was showing donors how their donation impacted the organization, you know, the people, the community, the people that were being helped by the organization. But the reality was that, or not the reality, but part of that was, or part of their donation was specifically for the organization, to put the lights on, to pay the salaries, to, you know, keep the heat on and all that. And, you know, donors don't ever want to hear that. They want it all to go to the, you know, so that fine line of trying to make donors understand your money is, your donation is making a difference. Sometimes it's going through the lights, you know, and then hitting the, you know, the recipient, but you know, and not wanting to not bring that in, you want to be upfront with your, you know what I mean, make sure they realize, but I always thought that was a difficult line to,
Yeah,
or plaque to be on.
yeah.
Oh.
Thank you for mentioning that.
That's a good point, 'cause, I've read a lot of articles and it's always starting to know that 10 cents out of every dollar goes to who needs it and the rest is administration, like you said, so that's very sad. Very
That's
sad,
wrong.
because all the people at the top making a lot of money,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of these profits, and it shouldn't be like that, but welcome to the real world.
Because it had become a sort of a place where many of the executive from private enterprise have gone to. And that sometimes is a form of organization. Because why should you hire a Price Waterhouse partner? A guy that probably have $5 to $10 million retirement fund. Don't tell me you are here. Why you will hire a very, very fanciful blue-blooded guy from Wall Street? Why? Is he bringing anything with him?
I love to make a case for that.
Depends on the organization.
I have a different view. First of all, most of the work that is being done in nonprofits are being done by people.
So, right,
Without the people, you can't help other people.
correct.
It's true.
There is a lot of people who have a lot of talents and could be making a lot more money in the corporate sector. They need to receive a livable wage. Something that makes them feel that the work is worth it and they are not having problems paying their own electricity because they are trying to help other people to pay their electricity. It is an industry. It's not like, you know, we give for giving. No, it doesn't work that way. But people who are doing this kind of work need to also live in a way that provides for their families. We have a lot of executive, and I'm not saying all of the organizations, some organizations may be really big and executives may be making a lot of money. You have to think that whether they are national
Right,
organizations, whether, you know, that person is like managing a lot of people, their talents is know who they are, is what they know. In any kind of job, you are not for what the person kind of like is doing for you. It's the moment, it's the knowledge they have accumulated over the years to make things more effective. So in that sense, I think that there is a lot of regulations right now, especially foundations. They care a lot about how much the executives is making versus their other staff, and they're looking into those things. But also you have to think that, you know, these kind of services or help to the community are being done by professionals who deserve to also support their families and do what they need to do and be paid for their talents. So now giving can be taken many places. One of the things that happens usually when givers give is that they may have a specific part of the work that they need they donating for. That's restricted giving. And then there is the other kind of donors who choose to give to general operation giving. And that general operation is what maintains the organizations. Because guess what? If I need to hire someone to serve people, let's say I hire a case manager. I hire a case manager, but that case manager needs a desk, needs a computer, needs a light over their head. there is a lot that is operational that is necessary, right, for these organizations to work. So it's not as simple as the 10 cents that go to the people. That's the stories that people tell themselves. But remember that without the people doing the work, there is no work being done. Right. So when we talk about connecting with the donors and making the ask, what you want to do is to tell a compelling story to the donor and be super clear and transparent about. That's where transparency comes in, right? That is very important. I have to say that most people give when they are emotionally connected to the cause. They may care about numbers. They may care about like how many people you help. At the end of the day, is whether they feel emotionally connected with the story. And how their gift is making a difference in the lives of others. So it is very important that you personalize your approach, notes, names, knowing people as much as you can. That's where the softwares are going to help you. Use deadlines and create urgency and make it easy to donate to people. If you have very complicated ways to donate, people may become distracted and it's gonna be difficult for them. But if you make it easy to donate, then there's more chance. And of course, show transparency, which was what we were talking about before. Be clear about where money goes and update people on the results. I think that we have all kinds of donors for all kinds of things in our organization. Some people understand very clearly that without my donation, the lights are not going to go on. You just have to be transparent about it. There's no reason, there is no shame. So you don't have anything to hide. The next piece is offer recognition. If you have the opportunity to give recognition to people, acknowledgement, tiers of giving, right? That's why we give different tiers when we have events, the gold donor versus the platinum donor and so on. Test and refine your approach, leverage partnerships, both with the donor and outside your organizations. People love to know that you're not recreating the wheel and that you're trying to partner with others. And also leverage social media and peer-to-peer fundraising. So what you want to do is to have some sort of balance giving in which you are using different methodologies throughout the year, so you don't exhaust certain kind of donor and you are tapping into different donors throughout the year. So creating a strategy for the whole year is super, super essential. And of course, express gratitude. So when we talk about attracting donors, there are two pieces that are important. First, presenting data to people on how you are improving the other people's lives. How do you show that? You show when you present data, you are able to demonstrate in a simple way what is the impact. What is before and after comparisons, right? With your donation, we were able to do this, and now all these other people were able to get transportation to their school, or they were able to get, an extra breakfast for the kids in the weekend, and so on, proving like we were able to host this many people in the shelter. One thing that I want to make sure that you get is that also when you show impact, you really talk about capacity, right? Here's the thing. People will want always to do more with less. And so, but there's only so much you can ask the people that, are doing. If you have a case manager, and the case manager can see a maximum of 20 people a week, right? And the donor wants you to see doing 150 people a week. Guess what? You can stretch that case manager more. We do it, but we shouldn't, because it's their own health, right? That is on the line. So that's a way in which you will be able to say to the donor, we would love to do that, yet our capacity has reached the top. In order for us to get more people, we will need more help. We need more people doing the work. You want to show the projected outcomes with your giving. Maybe this is what we can do, right? These are like kind of things that we always talk about when we do fundraising events. With $50, you can get a child a book that they need for their school and so on. Same thing, impact metrics for specific gifts when they're giving a gift. What is it that they could be giving to, right? And what is it, how is the impact in those donations? Data also helps with credibility. If you have good data, you'll be able to be more credible to the people that give. And they're also evident. If you are able to use evidence-based outcomes, you are in a much better spot. Like comparing what are the outcomes nationally versus what you're asking for, it's always good. It shows that you have done your homework and that the programs that you're running, you have research as well. They also help to visualize the programs and the progress, sorry. And that's something kind of like easy to do. They demonstrate the return on investment, and you can also showcase the need. Let's say, okay, in Fairfield County, we have this many residents that we're helping, but these are the number of residents that really need help, right? You use your data to compare different sources of data. But data alone doesn't do the whole work, and we talked about that when we did the data presentation. You also need to talk about the story. And how do you talk about the story? First, you have to create that emotional connection between the donor and what you're doing, which is something that we have been talking about the whole time. How is your donor connected to your cause? Why is it that they want to give? What are their personal experiences? We humans are naturally storytellers. Before anybody could write in a book, that's how we pass information on, right? Tribes will come together and tell stories about the past and how things worked out, right? So they tend to, people tend to embrace more emotional systems, empathy, and so on when they feel connected to the story. They can also simplify complex ideas, right? Sometimes telling people what is that you work on, it's really hard because it has so many pieces. But then if you tell the story of a case that you were able to help, people can like process it a little bit better. It's more digestible. It's more, relatable narratives that you can do, that you can show. It fosters connection and community. People care about community. We humans are naturally driven to community. With the younger generations, things are changing a little bit. I have the feeling they will, end up where we are anyway. It's just a phase. And it inspires and motivates, right? It fosters inspiration. People remember stories more than they remember facts. It's just naturally, well, some people that may be very good at mathematics may be able to remember numbers and data, but I think the story is what really stays with people. A long time ago, I was preparing for a competition on funding, and we were supposed to give a speech. And when we got the funding, by the way, but when I was preparing, I listened to a whole thing about TED Talks. It was an audiobook on TED Talks. And at the end of the day, he talked about what were all the factors that made TED Talk effective for people. At the end, is all about emotional connection. You can put 100 charts in your presentation. You can compare numbers. You can say before and after. It's the story that is going to make people connect emotionally, and that's what is going to help them give. Of course, you have to appeal to their analytical part too. But at the end of the day, they will give you emotionally, and that's what is important. So we are on the time. So I want to talk to you about donor management really fast, and you're gonna get this information. So don't worry about it if you want to analyze it a little more. What does donor management allow, and what kind of things you have to look into when you select your donor management software? First, integration. How does it integrate with the other systems that you have? Do you use contact to, send your emails? Is that donor management database connecting with it? Do you use QuickBooks for your bookkeeping? Is that software connecting to that? Integration is key. When you have a big idea of what is it that the systems that you work, you want to look for a donor system that integrates. Also, you want to look for a system that you are able to personalize, to change to your needs in the organization. That is user-friendly, that is not complicated for people to learn, because they will revert to their Excel sheets if they don't find the software useful. You want a donor software that has good customer support, and if possible, a lot of training that comes, whether it's in the form of a video library or training that people can attend. Because these are like, softwares can be like, they can have so much potential. And if you are not trained properly, you may never use it to the fullest potential. And also security is important, of course. I have to say, most of the time when there are security breaches, is people, not this is the software itself. Is somebody giving the password to somebody else that they shouldn't have given it to. So there is like a piece that comes with it on how you train your staff as well. But I selected the 5 most highly rated donors management softwares. And the one that came on top was Bloomerang. Bloomerang has 4.8 stars. And the main reason why people like it is because it's easy to use and it has great customer support. It also comes with emailing campaigns. So you may be able to do without constant contact and just use this software for emailing campaigns and other things that you need, other than the reporting tools and the communication tools. The second software that came on top was DonorBox, which is 4.7 stars. The reason why they gave it those stars because it's a software that is a little bit more affordable. So it's good for middle to mid-sized nonprofits. They actually do have a free version, and then they charge per transaction. Now, what's the problem with all these softwares? That now, because they are all online on the cloud, they tend to charge per user or per transaction. So the more you use it, the more expensive it's going to be. So it's worth doing a lot of research. Donor Perfect came on third. I thought it was going to be the first one because it's the one that I'm more familiar from familiar. It gets 4.5 stars, and it has a lot of advanced customization and features for reporting. It says in there that it has room for improvement, so I don't know specifically what it is. And you see then what kind of integration site they have when you get the PowerPoints as well. The next one is Little Green Light. The good thing about Green Light is that it does allow with donor event management as well. So, and I think they gave it this star because it's a combination of affordability and user-friendly interface. And then we have Salesforce, which is Salesforce started as a selling database for like regular companies, and it has evolved over time to create their own nonprofit platform. The good thing about Salesforce is that it's a good management tool for all the data you have, not only the donors, but also the people that you're serving. So you can get results and matching very accurately. The problem is that it is a software that is difficult to use. It's very complex. So it takes a lot, it's a long learning curve. And of course, it's not cheap either. They charge per month per user. So if you have a large organization that needs to be accessing this, it can become very, very expensive. And last but not least, Bonterra, which used to be formerly Network for Good. They changed the name. And they're rated 4.2 star. And the reason why it has this rating is because it has limited customization. You can't customize it as much as other softwares. So those are like the 5 top softwares. I have a long list that you're gonna hear with their stars. So you'll be getting this when you receive your PowerPoint as well. But I think that was it. That was what I wanted to cover. Sorry, I had to rush to the last part, but you know, it's mostly about information. It's a lot of information, but hopefully, you found it useful. And I was wondering if you have any questions or something that you would like to add, if you have the time.
Good question.
Yes.
Regarding signing up for the next, workshop, is that accessible on the website right now, or is there a period
Not-
that we?
not
can
yet.
sign up?
But it will be in the next,
But isn't that when you sign for one, you sign for all of them?
not, well, not, no,
No, no,
But you get the emails.
Yeah.
yes,
You're on an
you'll receive an email.
Okay. Okay.
You'll receive an email with all of this stuff.
yeah.
And I usually include a link to the registration form.
Okay, I'm looking for it, thank you.
I have a quick question. So based on what you presented to us, it's obviously a personal approach to every donor, but if you're working with limited resources and limited time,
Mhm.
can you figure out one message that appeals to everybody? It doesn't sound like you can.
No.
No.
Uh-huh.
I was thinking of all you in development now. Have like,
That's a lot, yeah, yeah.
I think that you can, I mean, you can continue looking at like, if you want to make the change to become very personalized, it is probably going to take you a long time. If you were to invest in resources, I would say definitely start with a donor database that is helpful to you. Because that's where you are going to be able to pull out reports and get information that is relevant to the people you're talking to. That doesn't mean that personalizing means that you have to stop everything you're doing. You can continue doing what you have been doing for a while until you get to that other level. I mean, change takes time. We have to be very patient with ourselves and the resources we have available. This is more like kind of like, let's look at the bigger picture and how we want our fundraising to look like in a couple of years from now, and to kind of give you a perspective of what is it that the things that you might want to be thinking about as you develop more, as you're able to get more funds, as you are able to reinforce your team with more people. Yeah, but continue doing whatever you're doing right now and start incorporating and testing a few things here and there in order to kind of figure out what's the right fit for you.
So, and one more question, is there a optimal number of time you reach out to a donor and then you stop? Because then you run the risk of, I have a very good friend who is lucky enough to have some funds that he can donate, and he won't donate to one charity anymore because they just kept on bombarding him, and he's like, you know, as soon as he made a donation, they would send him a letter and say, you made a donation, can you think about giving us more?
Give more.
And now he won't give it all, because
Yeah.
he's like,
Well, that defeats the whole just send a thank you, that's an honest thank you.
yeah, and then just,
What it's doing.
yeah.
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 Yes, you can, I mean, personally, I think you can definitely over ask.
Yeah,
To the same donors.
to the same donor,
You don't
and I
want-
didn't know if there was like a rule of thumb, no more than 3 times a year or
I would say under 3 times is good.
under 3 times.
And let's say you have 3 events a year, you will not want to ask for sponsorships to the same donor for the 3 different events.
Yeah.
You want to select that event that you want them to be sponsors for and not tap them into the other ones. You also, the annual appeal is something that tends to go to everybody
Yeah,
and people expect it, and it's fine. But I said with the targeted ones to be very careful and be able to select the group of donors that you're gonna target for one initiative versus the other initiative. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you for sticking around, and I'll see you next month.
so I do really
Talk about
I have a
grants.
very good
Thank you.
fundraising with your organization, Michelle Mogerson. Does that ring a bell? Mogerson? Okay,
Sounds.
because I know you do this big fundraising event this summer.